Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Friday, October 30th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. Ohio State's next game at Penn State is tomorrow. The game against Michigan, 43 days away. Just a few minutes after Thursday's morning show posted, five-star quarterback Quinn Ewers decommitted from Texas. If you listened to the show yesterday with Bill Green, he talked about Ewers, as well as some of the other five-star prospects who the Buckeyes are suddenly very much in the running to land. Bill and Mark Gifler are going to be releasing a new episode of the Gives in the Bank podcast today, which will have even more details on that. And the Ask the Insiders board at Buckeye Scoop has been absolutely blowing up for the past 24 hours about all of this. If you are interested in knowing exactly what's going on with the five different five-star players the Buckeyes have been linked to in just the last day or so, head on over to BuckeyeScoop.com and sign up for a membership today. Our team of insiders is absolutely killing it right now in what could be really a month or so that really defines the next half decade of Ohio State football. I know that sounds a little hyperbolic, but if you're looking at potentially adding five-star players who could be on campus from 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, it's also hard to say that that's not true. So we will set the recruiting aside for a moment. You can make sure if you want to hear more, check out the site, listen to Gives in the Bank. You'll hear all about them, all of the latest on all that recruiting stuff. So we're going to set the recruiting aside for a moment. Let's talk about this weekend's game instead. My guest today is Buckeye Scoop's lead beat writer, Tony Gerdeman. Tony, this is a week that a lot of people had circled from the moment the schedule was released as a game that really could define the ceiling for this year's Ohio State team. What do you see as the biggest area that will decide this weekend's game?
Yeah, this is a game that has been circled on many schedules released by the Big Ten this year. Every single schedule the Big Ten released this year, this game was circled on. For me, it comes down to, and we've said this many times, just protecting Justin Fields. As long as he stays upright and gets time to throw, I think Ohio State will be fine, even if it's tough running on the ground again, which I expect to happen. But with the long developing routes that they have for these guys that they want to get the ball down the field, because they have Justin Fields who can throw it anywhere and get the ball anywhere. So there's going to be some, we saw last week with Garrett Wilson, some of these long drag routes that take a while. If you give Justin Fields time, then that's going to open everything up and he'll find somebody, he'll hit somebody. I think that the Garrett Wilson touchdown may have been his third or fourth read last week on that deep pass play. So it's going to be hard for Penn State to keep everybody covered if they can't get to the quarterback. That's where that's where their pass defense is going to have to start. It's with the pass rush, and they've got the defensive ends to do it. That's probably their strongest area. And if the Buckeyes neutralize that strongest area, then what do they have?
Yeah. So I mean that's certainly one side of the ball there, and if Penn State though was going to win, I mean, I'm gonna you're the beat writer, so you're gonna write the game story. So okay, the headline is Penn State shocks Ohio State in front of empty whiteout crowd under full moon. Okay, it's a long headline, not a great headline. I'm not great at writing headlines. Doesn't matter. Going to push on. That's the headline of the story. What's the lead of the story? How does this happen? How does Penn State, if Penn State is going to win, how does Penn State beat Ohio State on Saturday?
Sean Clifford has the game of his life. Quarterback for Penn State, I think. Well, I mean, it's going to take even more than that. Ohio State has to turn the ball over. Sean Clifford has to rush for another 100 yards and just get the right yards, move the chains, keep things going, keep the ball away from Ohio State as well. He doesn't need to bust out a 35-yarder like he did last week. If he's just picking up 7 yards here and 4 yards there on a 3rd and 3, that's as valuable as a 25-yarder, a random 25-yarder, just keeping the chains moving. I think he has to play really, really well. And even then, if Ohio State just ends each possession with a kick, be it extra point, field goal, or punt, and just doesn't turn the ball over, I don't think Penn State has enough offense to outscore an Ohio State offense that isn't being hampered with turnovers.
You're talking about that, and it makes me wonder, is this a game where James Franklin needs to try and steal a possession somewhere, whether that's a fake punt, that's an onside kick, going for it and 4th down in a spot where he normally would kick a field goal, 4th and 5 at the 25-yard line. Does he need to go for it? Because, this just doesn't seem like a game where playing for field position or kicking field goals is going to be enough for him to pull out a win.
Indiana last week did several things aggressively to win that game. One, they let a guy score at the end. They were being active and proactive in trying to win a game. Then they went for 2 at the end. they weren't. They had an opportunity. You know what? Down to one play. Tom Allen was going to go for that. He told his guys in overtime, if we score here, we're going for two. Just be ready, get another 2-point conversion ready. And so Penn State watched Indiana beat them with aggression. And so if you don't then maybe take some of that, take a lesson from that and employ that yourself, I think you're probably making a mistake, especially with Ohio State being on the road and maybe looking to be a little, risk averse this week because maybe they can afford to. They don't need to score 42 points necessarily in this game. And maybe Ryan Day's not going for it on 4th and 1 from his own 30 or whatever, like he did last week, because you can do that at home. Like if you're struggling and your offense is struggling a little bit, you can kind of afford to do that at home against a Nebraska. Can you afford to do it on the road at a Penn State? I don't know. I think Ryan Day might choose to punt on the road faced with those similar circumstances this week. And so if your opponent, if Ohio State is going to be a little bit conservative, you can maybe gain an advantage by being more aggressive than you were last week or than Ohio State is. Maybe that's where you can maybe still more than one possession.
Now we'll release our staff picks for the game a little later on today, but what is your prediction for Saturday in Happy Valley?
I think I am still going 38-20 Ohio State in that area, which will require, I think, Ohio State to play better defensively, but also knowing that Penn State will get some plays in there. Pat Freiermuth, the tight end, we know is very good, and they're going to be very focused on stopping him. But, these are very good athletes at Penn State, and it can be one missed tackle, and Jahan Dotson, their wide receiver, goes 80 yards. We saw KJ Hamler go, 97 a few years ago, and it only takes one missed tackle from an aggressive defense to get some points on the board. And I don't know if that 20 points is 2 field goals or one missed extra point. Penn State had some kicking issues last week, so that may continue this week. And who knows? James Franklin may not be kicking any field goals this week. That might also play into that whole aggression thing, and that might be a good thing for them.
Yeah, that they were 0 for 3 on field goals last week, and one of them was a 57-yarder that was just short, but they doinked one from 24, I think. I mean, that is, I don't think he's going to be going into this game with a ton of confidence in his kicking game, so that might make him more likely to be a little more aggressive on 4th downs than he normally would have been. Now, before the season, I was one of 35 beat writers. They had a poll of everyone on the Ohio State beat. There was only one person. Tony's throwing his head back and laughing right now. Only one person who picked Ohio State to lose a game in Big Ten play. As they say on Twitter, it's me. I said this one, in reality, it's kind of a function of the fact that it's really hard to go unbeaten through a full season. I still think there's a chance someone reaches up and gets them at some point, whether that's Indiana, Michigan, Big Ten title game somewhere. I have Ohio State winning 35-24 this weekend, not a blowout, not a nail biter, just 35-24. It's interesting into the second half, but not too interesting to make you too get your blood pressure up too much. Also, in the Big Ten this weekend, Nebraska and Wisconsin had their game canceled due to positive COVID tests for the Badgers. Nebraska, staying true to their brand, really wanted to play a football game this weekend. Reached out to UT Chattanooga, see if the Mocs could come out to Lincoln and play. They seemed like they had an agreement to play, and then the Big Ten said, "Nope, thou shalt not pass." So no non-conference games for anyone this year in the Big Ten. They mean it this time. So no Nebraska football this weekend. Two teams that will be playing this weekend: Michigan and Michigan State, the Paul Bunyan Trophy game. To me, this seems like a game where Michigan State has saved some stuff. They've run 5 trick plays on the opening drive, take a 7-0 lead. Their team and their fans, their coaching staff's going crazy, and then they lose 52-7. Like, how do you see this one playing out in Ann Arbor?
If they saved plays, if they held plays back, they probably should have used them last week against Rutgers, and maybe they wouldn't have lost. But I'm with you. I think they try anything in that first couple drives just to see, because I don't think they're just going to run the ball. I don't think they're just going to be able to throw the ball. I think the Michigan defensive line will be getting after them with Aiden Hutchinson and Kwity Paye. Then the blitzing comes in, Tom. And we know Don Brown, defensive coordinator, loves to blitz. I'm not sure Rocky Lombardi, the Michigan State quarterback, is equipped to handle everything that's going to be happening. So I wouldn't be surprised. The over-under on this one is 1.5 pick sixes for Michigan. I'm just throwing that out there right now. And Tom, where are you going?
Pick sixes probably under. Interceptions, I'd probably go over 3.5 would be my guess. This seems like this could be a deeply unpleasant day for Michigan State football.
Yeah, and this is the same Michigan State team that fumbled 6 times last week. Lost 5 of them.
Is that good? I don't watch a lot of football. Is that a lot? It seems like a lot.
Well, you know what? If they only fumble twice this week, then their average drops considerably. So that would be good. If they only fumble twice, then maybe they have a chance to only lose by 5 touchdowns.
That's good. Keep it close. That's what it's all about. As the Michigan State student newspaper, had their headline a few years ago after the game. The headline was "Defeated with Dignity" because they had lost, but not by too many. So that was roundly mocked on Twitter.com, as you might have imagined. Elsewhere in the Big Ten, speaking of teams being defeated, Maryland football hosting Minnesota this weekend. This is going to be interesting. This is one of these low key we're going to learn something about Michigan this weekend in a game between Minnesota and Maryland, because Minnesota was missing their right guard, right tackle, basically everyone from special teams last week, missing a linebacker. It was all COVID stuff. I don't know if those guys are back this week. I also probably have a pretty good sense that Maryland's not real good, but I feel like if Minnesota comes out and is pretty decent without all of those guys again this week, if they're still all sitting out, that maybe tells me that, okay, maybe there's something to Michigan. If Minnesota comes out and it's 13-7 against Maryland, it's okay, I maybe don't read too much into that week 1 Michigan.
It will be interesting if Maryland wins Friday night or it's close. Do you see the line for the Michigan go down? Does the money start to come in on Michigan State, who is 24.5 point underdog right now? But yeah, I think we will learn more. But I still think Michigan was just so much better than Minnesota. I was really disappointed in what the Gophers did. And a bounce back would be nice. I don't know how much it means against Maryland, but the biggest lesson from this would be if they're just not very good against Maryland, then what do you even make of what Michigan did to them last week?
Yeah, and then the question is, okay, who the heck is coming out of the West this year? Because if Minnesota has lost a game already and is not very good, and Wisconsin could miss multiple games because of COVID stuff, and or be missing their top 3 quarterbacks if they do end up playing a game. I mean, you get down to Northwestern pretty quick, and I guess this will be a smooth transition to Northwestern Iowa. I guess. I mean, I didn't
Purdue?
Watch. Maybe Purdue. I mean, but Northwestern came out. Northwestern last week played Maryland and just absolutely beat the brakes off Maryland. And it was, and again, Maryland is very bad this year. I think that's probably going to be, I think there's a pretty good possibility that it is Maryland and Illinois in that 7th place game, the weekend of the Big Ten championship game. But you still, Northwestern played a lot of bad teams last year and did not put up 40 points against any of them. And then they came out and just exploded on Maryland. And they had a long time offensive coordinator who had been there for 10 years and had, the level of competence had slowly been rolling downhill, and then it adds up over. Remember the movie Multiplicity, where there's just copies of Michael Keaton and it just keeps getting worse and dumber every time? That was Northwestern's offense basically under Mick McCauley, something like that. Yeah, he was. He's gone, and all of a sudden, hey, Northwestern scoring points again. Peyton Ramsey's your quarterback now. How do you see Northwestern and Iowa shaking out this weekend?
I'm a Pat Fitzgerald doubter at most times, because he does a lot with a little, but sometimes he also does very little with a little and loses games he shouldn't. Now they're a 2.5 point underdog in this one, but I'm going with Iowa, and I think it'll be a good gauge of we're wondering who is coming out of the West. Purdue beat Iowa last week, so now it's now the ball is in Northwestern's court to try and keep up, I guess, with Purdue, unless Purdue then loses to Illinois this week. But yeah, now you do have to keep pace, and this is also Iowa trying to stay ahead of the curve. And but I'm going to go with the Hawkeyes here, because I doubt Pat Fitzgerald's ability to put 2 big games together. And not that last week was a big game, but this being the first road game, I think this will tell us a lot as well. Just is if Northwestern scores another 38, 40 points, then I'm going to start believing. If they score 17, which I could totally see happening, then we realize that, yeah, that was just a win over Maryland, which doesn't mean anything last week.
All right, Purdue versus Illinois, Indiana versus Rutgers. Which of those are you most intrigued by this weekend?
I want to know if Rutgers is going to come into Ohio Stadium ranked. So I'm more interested in Indiana Rutgers. If Rutgers goes 2-0, they deserve that Indiana ranking, because not only did they beat Indiana by proxy, they have beaten Penn State. So thrust those Rutgers rankings. Now we're talking Rutgers beating Penn State, almost all practicality, getting that win over Penn State by virtue of beating Indiana. That's what I'm going to be watching. I'm interested to see, does Rutgers need another 7 turnovers to barely win a game?
Yeah, and if Rutgers does win this game, and if Rutgers is ranked, College Game Day, Ohio State, Rutgers. Who says no?
Tom, it is 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So
Purdue, it is 2020, but Illinois football still looks bad. They play Purdue this weekend. 2020 can't make everything weird. Illinois has been the constant in the universe, and that constant is bad at football. Any danger for Purdue this weekend?
I think so. I mean, you're Purdue. Until you're more than Purdue, then you're going to be in danger. And I still go back to the Wisconsin loss last year to Illinois. So crazy things can happen. Purdue's a 7-point favorite. We don't know about Rondale Moore, what's going on with Jeff Brom. It's a road game. Yeah, I think Purdue just needs to be careful, but just throw the ball to David Bell. I think you'll be fine.
Well, that'll wrap up the Big Ten schedule for this weekend. We will have a ton of coverage from State College this weekend. Maybe a little high school football tonight. Don't want to tell you exactly what we're doing, but we're doing something tonight, so it should be fun. And we will have complete coverage all day and night from State College. That should be fun. We have also got a ton of great recruiting coverage at BuckeyeScoop.com right now. I mean, this is a week that, if you have followed recruiting for 20 years, this might be a week that is unlike just about anything else you've seen. Just an absolute wave of 5-star players, like all of a sudden looking like Ohio State might be in it for, the 2020 class was talked about as maybe one of the greatest in Ohio State history. The 2021 class might be better than that. 2022 class might be better than that. Like it is bananas right now. So if you're the type of person who is interested in football and recruiting and knowing things before just the day of the game, you don't just walk in the stadium and goes, oh, who's the starting quarterback this week? You are the type of person who would love a subscription to BuckeyeScoop.com.
I had my weekly Wednesday night chat last week, or the other night, the same night everything is breaking. And it was just the worst possible time to, hey, everybody, let's come chat about Ohio State football, because all kinds of recruiting stuff is breaking, and my thread just goes down the board, and it's just all, now this guy, and now this guy, and now Quinn Ewers, and now this. And it was just a very sad day for Tony.
Well, if you're a member of BuckeyeScoop.com, you can help bolster Tony's self-esteem by participating in his weekly chats. Bill Green has a great weekly chat on Thursdays. Like it is an extremely active and very fun community. You can be a part of it at BuckeyeScoop.com. Also, make sure you check out all of our great podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud. Just search for Buckeye Scoop right there. You can rate and review and subscribe to all of those shows right there while you're at it. So thank you guys for listening. Have a great weekend. Make sure you check out BuckeyeScoop.com all weekend. We will have a ton of coverage of the Ohio State-Penn State game, as well as whatever else is happening in recruiting this weekend. Have a great weekend. We will talk to you guys Monday.